Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. Man, I sure do appreciate it. It's time for some locks of the week here on LouTube. I did this last year. I guess we're going to get it going again this year. But as most of you know, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I preview and predict against a spread a whole bunch of games, 50, 60 games. I do every SEC game, every top 25 game. And then on Thursday, I do all the other games that didn't fit into either of those two categories that are of some interest to me for some particular reason or another. So that's a whole lot of games to try to preview and predict against the spread. Now, if you ask 100 different people to tell you their gambling or their sports betting philosophy, you're going to get 100 different answers. I'm of the opinion that it's not really a good idea to gamble on 50 or 60 games a week. I kind of think you should try to, make a big list of games that you like, maybe narrow it down to a little bit of a smaller list, narrow it down again, and find the 2, 3, 4, 5 games, whatever, that you really, really like for that particular weekend, and decide how you want to bet on those 4 or 5 games. That's what I do. I make the preview and prediction videos for entertainment. I'm giving predictions on 50 or 60 games. So, and I get a ton of them wrong every single week. This is a, everybody thinks they have some kind of secret or they got it figured out or whatever. Yeah, it's a roll of the dice. But anyway, so I preview and predict all kinds of games here, and I get one wrong. I show up, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He got this game wrong. I get a bunch of games wrong. But anyway, I've narrowed my list down to what do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I took all the games I previewed and predicted this week, and I narrowed it down to 10 games that I really, really liked. Now, for me, 10 is still a little bit too high to bet on 10 games in a weekend. Not that I've never done that before, but as a general rule, I try to limit it to about half of that. So what I'm going to do, I guess we'll call these the locks of the week or whatever. I'm going to pull Bet Now up onto the screen here now for you guys. Let me, where is it? Here it is. All right, let's pull it up. All right, here it is. I'm logged in. You guys remember I put $100 in before the games last weekend, and I'm up to 145.57. And I'll tell you how I got there. If you were on the live stream last night during the Georgia Tech game, then you probably already know. Basically, I'm 3-1 so far for the season on games that I've actually bet on this year. I started out 0-1. Of that $100 I initially deposited, I actually put $50 on Florida to cover. I think it was -7? I think it was -7. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it was. They didn't cover, so I lost that. So I lost that $50. That put me down to $50 heading into yesterday's games, and I placed the following bets yesterday. I bet $25 on Utah at -6.5 over BYU. That hit. They won by several touchdowns. So. I bet 25. I won about 25. You don't win dollar for dollar what you bet. That's where these negative numbers come in right here. The -110. Sometimes you'll see -115, -105, whatever. Anyway, I bet 25, so I won about $22 or $23 on that game. So I got my $25 back, and then I got an additional $22, $23, whatever it was. Then I played yesterday also a 2-team parlay. I don't usually play parlays, and in general, I think parlays are a sucker bet. I've known some bookies in real life, and they love people who bet parlays with them because generally they lose. If you don't know what a parlay is, basically a parlay is you're making more than one bet. You can bet on multiple games, whatever you want, but more than one bet. And to win the parlay, all of your bets have to win. So you can do a 2-bet parlay. You can do a 12-bet parlay. Whatever you do, though, every one of your bets has to hit in order for you to win. If you do a 12-bet parlay and you go 11 out of 12, you don't win a dime. You lost you lost whatever you risked. Now, the payouts on parlays are exponentially higher based on how many teams you're parlaying. So, in other words, on that Utah game, I just bet that one bet, right? Utah, I bet 25. It hit. I won an additional about $23. So, close to dollar for dollar there. The 2-team parlay that I hit, I had Cincinnati -3, and of course they won by a couple of scores, so that hit for me. And then I had Texas A&M -32.5, I think, or 33, and they ended up winning by 34. Okay, so I hit both of those bets on my parlay. I bet $25. I didn't just win another $25, okay, because it was 2 bets. It was parlayed. I didn't even just win another $50, which would have been double. I actually won almost $75 on that one 2-team parlay. So I risked 25. When it hit, I got paid almost 75. It was $72 or $73. Okay, so this is how I ended up. That's how I ended up at the 145.57 right there. I started with 100. I lost 50 on the Florida game. That put me down to 50. I bet 25 on Utah -6.5, and I won. So that put me up to about $75. All right. Then I had $25. I bet a 2-team parlay, Cincinnati -3, Texas A&M I think it was 32.5, and that hit for about $75. So that's where I'm at with the 145.57. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I've already got the games checked here on Bet Now. All the games are pulled up. These are the current odds. So you'll notice that some of these odds have changed versus when I made the preview or prediction video based on where people are putting their money, right? And I explained this in the how-to video that I made a couple of weeks ago, how to bet on sports. Click back and watch that video if you don't understand some of these numbers here that we're dealing with, the +5, -5, over, under, money line. Click back and watch that video from a couple of weeks ago, how to bet on sports or whatever it was called here on the channel, and explains all this to you. But some of the lines have changed based on where the money has gone on each game. So, but I've already gone through and check marked the 10 games that I like the most this week, and then I'm going to narrow the list down. All right, and some of these you've heard me talk about on the live shows, or even while I was doing the video, I've said, "Wow, that seems like a really good one to play." I like Michigan State -23.5 at home against Tulsa. Tulsa is not nearly the offensive team that they were a few years ago. There was a 2 or 3 year period where Tulsa was one of these explosive teams that was scoring 40 and 50 points a game. They're not that team anymore. And on top of that, I think it's possible Michigan State might have the best defense in America. And I'm not kidding. They were first against the run last year. They got almost all those guys back. Mark D'Antonio always has an elite secondary, it seems like. I think this could potentially be one of the best teams D'Antonio has ever had under Michigan State, and definitely one of the best, if not the best, defenses that he's ever had. 23.5 is a good number. That's a little bit under 3 touchdowns and a field goal. I could easily see Michigan State winning this game, 37-10, right, which would be 27 points, which would cover. If Michigan gets into the 40s, they cover. They're definitely going to cover if they get into the 40, because I don't see Tulsa getting into the 20s. But because of Michigan State's defense, and because I think a lot of people are undervaluing Michigan State based on their record for last year, maybe they don't realize the amount of injuries that Michigan State had, particularly their offense. Last year, they were just decimated with injuries. At one point during the season, 9 of their offensive starters were out with injuries at one point or another. It was just ridiculous how many players got injured. So I really like that Michigan State game -23.5. The second one that I really like here is Ohio State -27.5. This is just under 4 touchdowns, which is a number that I like. I think Ohio State is going to have an offensive explosion here. Florida Atlantic. Again, I think Florida Atlantic is a team that gets too much attention because of their head coach, Lane Kiffin. But if you look at them last year in week 1 against Oklahoma, their offense was non-existent. And that's against Oklahoma's defense. Regardless of what you think about Ohio State and what happened with Purdue last year and Iowa the year before and all that, Ohio State is still one of the most talented teams in the country year in and year out. They're loaded with NFL players on both sides of the ball. I've got some question marks about Ohio State's linebacking play, but I don't think it'll be as bad as it was last year. I really don't see how it can. And offensively, I think they're going to be really, really good. Forget about Justin Fields, okay? Is he going to come out and throw for 350 yards on Saturday? He doesn't need to. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a huge year running the ball. They've got some guys behind him. They've got a great offensive line. They've got playmakers at wide receiver. Justin Fields can run around some. He doesn't have to throw the ball. If he's not comfortable, he can take off and run. It's not that I don't expect Fields to have a good game throwing the ball. I think he will. But even if you're one of these people who, for some reason, doubts Fields, you should still consider Ohio State here at minus 27.5 against a really bad Florida Atlantic team. That's another game I really like this week. Moving down, Kentucky, I talked about this one a lot on the live show, and when I did the SEC video, it was actually minus 12, I think, when I did the video, so the number has even come more into my favor at 11.5 here. I think Kentucky is undervalued, and this is something I mentioned too. If you're a lot higher on a team than the average fan is, you should consider betting on that team early in the season, in my opinion. I'm much higher on Kentucky than the average person is. The spread, 11.5. This is an overall consensus of what the betting public feels about this game. So the average person betting on college football thinks Kentucky is about 11.5 points better than Toledo. Because as money is bet on a game, the line moves up and down. So if it settles at 11.5, that means about half the people think Kentucky's a little bit better than 11.5. About half people think Kentucky's a little bit worse than 11.5. So 11.5 is the number that ends up on the screen here. I'm higher than the average person on Kentucky. So for that reason, I'm going to play Kentucky the first couple of weeks of the year, unless I'm proven wrong. Maybe they end up even losing a game, or they don't cover the first 2 weeks. I'll jump off that train. But I'm sort of a believer in that as a philosophy. Earlier in the year, there's a team that you're a lot higher on than the average person. Consider betting that team. The same is true, too. If there's a team that you think is drastically overrated and you don't understand why people think such and such a team is going to be so good, bet against them the first couple of weeks, right? There's a lot of people who felt that way about Florida. They're overrated. I don't understand why they're a top 10 team. Miami could actually beat them. Well, turns out those people were right. Had they placed money on their feeling, right, they would have won in that game because they would have been placing money on Miami because they're betting against a team that they think is overranked, Florida. So you sort of see what I'm talking about there. Going down, I really like Ole Miss here at plus 4.5. I think Ole Miss is another team that's probably undervalued based off their performance last year. I do think Memphis is a really good group of 5 team. Ole Miss's defense is sketchy at best, but I do think Ole Miss has the ability to put up a lot of points this year. I even considered the over here, 65, instead of the plus 4.5. And in fact, it might not be a terrible, if you want to try one of those 2-team parlays or 2-bet parlays, you could take Ole Miss plus 4.5 and the over 65 and parlay that if you wanted to. I considered doing that, but for this video, I'm just sticking with with the spreads, and I'm ignoring the over-unders here. But I like Ole Miss at plus 4.5. They could lose this game by a field goal. Remember, you still win the bet. Memphis has to win by more than 4.5 here, or else you win if you take Ole Miss. So, if this is a high-scoring game and it ends up being something like 37 to 35, 37 to 34, 42 to 40, anything like that, you win with Ole Miss. I'm going to take Ole Miss in a 4.5. I like that one. Continuing down, Northwestern and Stanford. This one really scares me because it's on the road, but I'm lower on Stanford than most people. So this is sort of the opposite of my Kentucky play, right? I'm higher on Kentucky, so I'm playing Kentucky. I'm lower on Stanford than most people, so I'm playing against them. It's not necessarily that I'm high on Northwestern. I think people are a little too high on Stanford. I do like KJ Costello, but I just think this number is a little too high. This is another game that I could see being a 3 or 4 point game. I like Northwestern plus 6.5. Georgia Southern plus 27.5. There's a million reasons why you should take Georgia Southern at plus 27.5. It's right under 4 touchdowns. They're a triple option team, which means if they can get things going at all on the ground, it's going to limit LSU's offensive possessions, which is good if you're playing Georgia Southern here. LSU, even if things are going well, is not a team that I think is going to explode offensively. Not that they can't put up some points, but they're not a quick strike offense. You don't think of them that way like you would maybe an Oklahoma or Ohio State or even an Alabama from last year, something like that. LSU plays Texas week 2, one of the biggest games of the season in all of college football, not just for LSU. How much are they looking forward to that game? How early do they take the starters out in this game if they are up by 3 or 4 touchdowns late in this game? That could benefit Georgia Southern. You see this all the time. A team like LSU, that's a huge favorite, 27.5. They'll be winning by 28 points with 3 or 4 minutes to go in the game. They've done take all their starters out of the game, and Georgia Southern scores a late garbage touchdown, with a minute to go that means nothing in terms of who wins or loses the game, but it absolutely kills this number and takes you from a 28-point winner to a 21-point loser if you played LSU. We saw that last night in the Texas State-Texas A&M game. That game was 35 for a while. Was Texas A&M minus 35 for a while, right? And they were up by more than that. And Texas State scored a garbage touchdown at the end, and Texas A&M ended up only winning by 34. Now, I ended up betting that game late and got it at 32.5 or 33, so it didn't affect me. But there was a lot of people that ruined their day when Texas State scored that touchdown late. Anyway, I just think there's a lot of things pointing to Georgia Southern covering this 27.5 here. I like them in this spot. Missouri minus 17 at Wyoming. I don't think Wyoming's a very good team. Somebody told me in the comment section that's where Josh Allen played. That's great. He's not there now, though. But Kelly Bryant is at Missouri. And say what you want about how good or bad you think he is or isn't. He's way better than anybody Wyoming has right now. I think Missouri is going to start out hot this year, probably 4-0, 5-0, possibly even 6 or 7-0. I don't see him starting any worse than 6-1 or 7-1, and the one loss definitely ain't coming to Wyoming. They sort of have an axe to grind with not being eligible for a bowl game this year. That's still up for appeal, but as of right now, they're not eligible for a bowl game. Kelly Bryant is trying to impress the NFL every single time he drops back to throw the ball. He's looking to impress the NFL. That's the only reason he went to Missouri, was to get ready for the NFL and try to prove to the NFL he can play. I think Missouri wins this game. I think Missouri wins it big. I like Missouri and laying the 17 there. Continuing on, Kansas minus 6. This is one of my favorite bets of the day. It was 5.5 when I did the preview. It's up to 6 now. I think Kansas wins this game huge. I mean, 3 or 4 touchdowns. I don't even think this game will be close. I just think Kansas is going to absolutely destroy Indiana State. Les Miles is worth something. Is he worth winning 8 or 9 games this year? No, he's not going to do that to Kansas. But he's not losing to Indiana State. Kansas' best player is out, Puka Williams. I think that's keeping this number down some. He's their star running back. He's suspended 1 game. This game, Kansas going to running back by committee type approach. I still think Kansas will have a ton of rushing yards in this game. I don't like Indiana State. They're not a good team at all. And you say, well, either it's Kansas. Kansas is better than Indiana State, and they have Les Miles. And like I said, that has to be worth something. This might be my favorite play, Kansas minus 6. And let's see, Arkansas minus 30. This one was at 28 when I did the preview. I liked it a lot more at 28 than I do at 30. I included this game in this list for this video because I talked about it when I did the SEC preview that I really liked Arkansas there. And you're thinking, why does 2 points make a difference? If you start betting on football, it won't take you long to realize that 1 or 2 points makes a huge difference. I probably would mark this game off my list now that it's up to over 4 touchdowns at 30 points. If for some reason you're really, really high on Arkansas, you could still consider it. The over might be a better number to play here in this spot now. I think Arkansas is probably going to score in the 40s or 50s in this game. If Portland State can get up into the 20s, then the over probably tips and you win. Maybe that's something you want to consider. I'm probably going to take this off the board for my purposes, though. I included it, like I mentioned, because I talked about it being a really good play when I did the SEC video. If you got it at 28, I would still like that. The 30 just worries me. And I think that was the last one. No, well, one more. Houston plus 23. This one was 23.5. I liked it better at 23.5. Why does a half point matter? Well, you can't win or lose by a half a point. But I can, with the plus 23, that makes a tie possible. So, Oklahoma could win this game 40-17, right? That would be 23 points. I don't lose the bet, but I don't win either. I just get my money back. If it was 23.5 and the score is 40-17, it would be a winner. I still like this play at plus 23, though. I don't think Oklahoma's going to win this game by more than 3 touchdowns. I just don't. I like Houston's quarterback a lot. Derek King, is that his name? Probably saying it wrong. Dana Holgorsen, he knows what Oklahoma's going to do. Now, whether he's got the players to stop it or even slow it down, that's a different story. But Dana Holgorsen has been playing Oklahoma for years when he was the coach out at West Virginia, so nothing they do is going to surprise him. Oklahoma's breaking in Jalen Hurts. He's not the passer that Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray was. He's more of a downhill runner, really. So we'll see. I think Oklahoma's going to run the ball a lot in this game, like a whole lot, and that may speed this game up some. That may cost Oklahoma a possession or two over the course of this game, and that might be enough for you to win this bet. But I think Houston is good enough to keep this game within 3 touchdowns. I like Houston in the plus 23. All right, so those are the 10 games that I sort of narrowed it down to, and now I'm going to narrow it down a little bit further, and that's going to be it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick the best way I've decided to do this for today. I've picked 3 favorites that I really, really like out of that list, and I've picked 3 underdogs that I really, really like out of that list. So I'm going to run through these kind of quick because I've already explained my reasoning for the game. So I'm just going to tell you my 3 favorites and my 3 underdogs that I really like this week. So we'll start at the top. I like Michigan State minus 23.5 for all the reasons I stated previously. That's probably a game I'm going to play this week. I like Ohio State minus 27.5. That's probably a game I'm going to play this week. And I like where's the last one here? Kansas minus 6. Those are my 3 favorite plays of the teams that are favored to win. So those are my best favorites of the week, those 3. The 3 underdogs I like the most, I like, we'll start at the bottom, I guess. I like Houston. That is one. I like Houston plus 23. It's one of my 3 favorite underdog plays of the week. I like, what are the other 2? Let me find them. I like Georgia Southern plus 27.5. That's one of my 3 favorite underdog plays of the week. And I like Northwestern plus 6.5. Those are my 6 favorite plays of the week. I'm not sure yet if I'll play all 6 of those or some of those 6 on Saturday. And I may end up playing a game or 2 that's not even on this list. Maybe I hear something on the radio that makes me want to lean one way or the other or whatever. But as of right now, that's what I'm going to go with. My 3 favorites of the week. Michigan State minus 23.5. Ohio State minus 27.5. And Kansas minus 6. My 3 favorite underdogs of the week are Georgia Southern plus 27.5. Houston plus 23. And Northwestern plus 6. Northwestern, Georgia Southern, and Houston. There it is. Make yourself some money. Again, go over to betnow.eu. They sponsor all these preview and prediction videos and lots of the weeks and all these videos that I do. Go over there. Get yourself signed up. There's a link in the description of this video. It'll take you right to the site. Get signed up. It'll ask you for a promo code. Enter Uncle Lou. All one word, Uncle Lou. And they're going to give you a 100% bonus on whatever you deposit. So if you deposit $100, you're going to see $200 show up in your online account on BetNow. If you deposit $500, you're going to see $1,000 show up in your account on BetNow. If you deposit $25, you're going to see $50. Deposit whatever you want. That bonus is good through September 16th, and then I think it's going to drop down to 50%. So make sure you get on that now. Have yourself some fun this season. Maybe you make a little bit of money. Maybe you lose a little bit of money, but I promise you'll have some fun doing it. Remember to gamble responsibly. Don't gamble your house payment. Look at this as entertainment only. Instead of going to the movies this week and spending $100 or whatever you spend there, have some fun on betnow.eu. All right, that's going to be it, guys. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Have a good morning.